Carlos from Multiculti and Chicago Indie Media. We're out here today in Springfield, Illinois, in front of our state capitol building with ILNorml, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Law. And today we are working to pass Senate Bill number 30, which would legalize medical marijuana here in the state of Illinois. Right now this is a really important issue because medical patients are treated as criminals, and people who are trying to heal themselves are being put behind bars and can't get safe access to the medication that they need. So ILNorml is here today to talk to legislators from our state and encourage them to pass SB 30.
My name is Arlo Andrade, and I'm from Oak Park, Illinois, and traveled with other members of the ILNorml organization. And I'm also a member of the Human Solution based out of Southern California. I'm out here today to be a representative of myself as well as cannabis patients and advocates alike to support House Bill 30, a medical pilot program that will help patients get access to medical marijuana without worry of being prosecuted.
Hey, I'm Ali Nagib. I'm with ILNorml. We're the Illinois chapter of the National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. We work on the state and local level to try and change these laws. We've brought a couple dozen supporters out here today, both patients and activists who want to try and support this bill, to try and speak with their state reps as well as other state representatives to try and convince them to vote to support this bill. And we do a lot of other work in the community, lobbying on other related cannabis policy issues, including local ordinances at the city and county level, as well as working here in the Capitol to make changes on the state level.
Medical marijuana is just the first initiative on the step to legalizing marijuana in Illinois. The next step would be for full usage for industrial use or recreational use, for the legal consumption and distribution for adults over the age of 21. And that will be the next thing we're fighting for here in Illinois. And it's really important on many levels. Currently, there are thousands of people being incarcerated in Illinois for nonviolent drug-related offenses. Where if right now we decriminalize marijuana and released all the nonviolent drug offenders who have been incarcerated for marijuana, it would save taxpayers in Illinois hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, ILNorml in general supports the full taxation and regulation of cannabis for all adults. However, today we're focusing particularly on the medical cannabis bill, which is the bill that's currently being voted on by the Illinois General Assembly.
It's a very important bill that needs to be passed, especially with my life, because I was born HIV positive in 1986, and my survival expectations were very low back in those days, and even all the way up until the age of 18, I was on antiretrovirals and protease inhibitors, and all those really they gave me my life, but at the same time they took it, and it was no way to live. And at the time, I didn't really understand the medicinal values to marijuana. I was more into the recreational uses and as well as other substances, and I've battled addiction and PTSD over the last 26 years, and one of the main ways that marijuana has helped me is because of the side effects from my disease. It really causes me to not have energy and sometimes not be able to eat or even function physically, whether it be walking or just even speaking like I am right now.
So my name is Eric Berlin. I am an attorney with a large law firm in Chicago, and I also have Crohn's disease. For several years I've been involved with Crohn's advocacy and fundraising, and in the process of that, and being during a period of time very sick myself, I learned that many other patients were receiving substantial relief from using cannabis. And after researching it really thoroughly, talking with my doctor, that sort of thing, I quite frankly gave that a try myself, and at that time when I was really sick was aided tremendously by that. And then I started to understand that this bill, House Bill 30, which would provide for a very limited program for patients in Illinois to be able to use cannabis to treat their condition. When I learned about that, I became involved and learned a lot about the issues and what the politicians were thinking about it. And to me, this really is about the politicians who are, and the legislators here in Springfield, who are willing to listen to facts and put facts and science above their old beliefs, blind ideology, and partisan politics. And there are those who are willing to do that and those who are not.
And we're here in the Illinois State Capitol building to support Illinois House Bill 30, the medical cannabis bill. We're trying to get this bill passed, so we're here trying to talk with the state representatives, state senators, and other members of the public to try to convince them to support this bill. It's a very important bill. There's a lot of people with a lot of very serious conditions, including HIV, cancer, glaucoma, the list goes on of conditions that are potentially qualifying under House Bill 30 to allow people to legally use cannabis to treat their conditions with the permission from their doctor and the oversight of the Department of Public Health.
Right now we're in the November veto session, which has one last opportunity for us to pass this important bill before the end of the year. It looks pretty good, and right now we have support from a large number of senators and representatives from the state of Illinois.
So we're trying to reach out to those representatives that are still on the fence, those reps that haven't quite made up their minds or have been voting no in the past, but might be willing to change their vote now that they've taken some time to see the different changes that have made to the bill over the many months and years that these bills have been active.
We have about 30 people here down at the Capitol representing ILNorml. People came over from all over the state representing patients.
We're getting a great deal of support. We know that both nationally and in Illinois that very large majorities, sometimes as high as 70-80%, depending on which poll you look at, show support for medical cannabis, for patients not being treated like criminals, that patients should be allowed to have the best treatment that their doctors believe is the best for them. So we're optimistic that support will translate itself into passing this bill.
And I pass on my knowledge on marijuana to my infectious disease doctors. And they're actually being more willing to open up because I'm opening up as a patient. And that's a very slow-moving process right now of getting both the patients and the doctors to open up about their views and opinions on marijuana.
Facts really speak strongly right now. What we know is that many patients receive great palliative relief from cannabis. The scientific studies now have proven that palliative relief is substantial, and that for many conditions, cannabis is helping to treat not just palliative relief, but the underlying condition. The third thing that we know is that cannabis has an extremely safe profile, what is in the medicine referred to as the safety profile, and it has among the safest profiles of any medication.
The bill has several co-sponsors, House Bill 30. The main chief sponsor in the House is Representative Lou Lang from Skokie. He's been working on this bill for a long time, and he's been a great champion of this bill and worked very hard to try and get it passed. There's about a half a dozen other co-sponsors on the bill right now, but there's always room for some more to jump on board.
It's been known for a long time that cannabis is useful as when I say palliative relief, essentially if you're feeling nauseous or you have extreme pain, that it will help with those things. So we have many patients who live with constant pain, like spinal injuries, and they use cannabis in the place of other medications they're using. They previously were on oxycodone, morphine. They, like every patient who's ever been on those, hate those drugs. They make them feel awful. They're addictive drugs. The minute they stop taking them, they feel bad. They don't have that problem with cannabis.
The last time the bill was voted, in May of 2011, there were between 53 and 57 yes votes. So we know that we need to get an additional 5 to 7 votes based on those numbers in order to get this bill passed. So we're hopeful that we can turn enough of those no votes to yes votes to get the bill over the line.
So we encourage you to act right now. Don't wait around. There's many people who are waiting for this, who need this. It's so important to so many people. and your actions will make a big difference. You know, it just takes a few minutes to get on the phone and call. It takes a few minutes to write a letter.
The best thing people can do is, as always, the best thing is to call your reps and senators and let them know that you support them and that you support them supporting cannabis reform, whether it's the medical cannabis bill or a decriminalization measure or a taxation and regulation measure. Hopefully we'll be getting to that point soon in Illinois. But supporting organizations like NORML, the Illinois chapter in particular, we can always use more help, more support, both volunteers, financial support, other support that people are able to offer, and it really makes a big difference in order for us to keep our presence here in the Capitol, to be able to keep working with the legislators, to keep making the change that we need. If you go to our website, which is www.ILNorml, that's NORML.org. We're also on Facebook, and you can learn all about our events. You can join our email list to keep up to date on all of our events and activities. We host movie nights. We host monthly public meetings in Chicago. We're always looking to add additional meetings throughout the state for other areas that people are interested in getting involved. If you are outside of the city of Chicago and you would like to host a meeting or expand our presence, we're always happy to work with you to get those activities going.
Mike, I've been working on this legislation now for 2.5 years, and we started with the legislatures pretty much not even believing that this can be used for medical purposes, and there's been a great deal of attention on that in the press and otherwise. So right now, pretty much almost all the legislatures, at least all that I've spoken to, understand that. They understand the medicinal positive effects of cannabis. Some of them have trouble with just the political notion and the stigma, and we have to ask them to have a little bit of courage and step out a little bit and do this. Some are worried about the controls, and the act is very tight. It has very strict controls over patient use and how the medication will be cultivated and sold in the state, and indeed how to get into the program. A lot of legislators think, oh, well, anyone with a headache is now going to be able to get pot. And that's not true. For better or for worse, the bill in front of the legislators right now gets rid of just pain. You have to go into your doctor, who is your doctor for the particular condition. You have a bona fide ongoing relationship with that doctor, and it has to be that doctor who essentially prescribes the medication because that doctor, he or she, thinks that other medicines are not helping you, and this indeed would help. It's not the situation that we have out in California, and again, I'm not passing judgment, but we're a different state. And in California, you can go down to the corner and pay $250, pretty much no matter what your condition is, I understand it, and get admitted into the program, which has no oversight by the state or municipalities. Here we have a very tightly controlled bill, and you'd have to go to the doctor with just very specific conditions. Crones is one of them, MS is one of them, cancer, wasting from AIDS, that sort of thing. And your doctor has to set out a declaration for you that he or she is your doctor, that you will benefit by this, and it has to be signed under, essentially a sworn oath. It then has to go to a central state agency to admit you to the program, where you're going to get an ID, and they follow the purchases. Quite frankly, I've heard from patients, gosh, this is so tough, I'd rather just stay on the black market. And I understand that, but I think in terms of providing patients with safe access to safe medication, that the bill is a really important step in the right direction.
Do you think it'll happen this veto session in December, or not at all, or the way things work, you never know until it gets called?
Well, you never know until it gets called, that's for sure. We are very optimistic that we will get our legislation called and it will pass, especially given what has happened in other states. Massachusetts being the 18th state now to allow doctors to recommend cannabis for patients, as well as Washington State and Colorado taxing and regulating the adult cannabis market.
So, what's your message to legislators?
Do the right thing and protect these patients from arrest and give them safe and legal access to the medicine that their doctors want to recommend for them.
And have you done a nose count on votes?
We are right at the breaking point of the 60 that we need to get through the Illinois House.
science is now telling us, and we're talking about real science, not just anecdotal reports, but real double-blind, placebo-controlled studies are showing us that cannabis is actually helping with some of the underlying conditions. And the science is still out for some conditions like Crohn's disease, but for a condition like MS, it's actually helping the underlying condition and not getting worse. We see that it's having positive effects on cancer patients. It's killing cancerous brain cells and cancerous breast cancer cells. A lot of people don't realize that because they're not reading enough about it. I'm not sitting here claiming that this is a cure-all. I'm not claiming this is a panacea. The science doesn't support that. I go with the science. I try to help interpret the science for some of the legislators. So that's what we know. I refer to the safety profile. What we know is that this has been used for centuries, of course, but we have science studying use over decades. And we're finding that, I'm not suggesting it doesn't have any risks involved, but it is a relatively safe medication, much safer medication than what many of the patients are using to treat these conditions. We have some who say, I'm not going to vote for a bill that's sponsored by Lou Lang. There's not much we can do about that, other than I think that's really regrettable for legislators to not act compassionately for personal reasons, for vendettas or things that happened in the past, or maybe things that are happening right now with Mr. Lang. But the bill is a strong bill. We have spoken to a lot of legislators. We think we're right on the fence in terms of the vote. We just need a few more to follow the science, follow what the law really says, and act with a little bit of compassion for patients.